unlike me, we're gonna have to get a few things straight. Sex, defined as either of the two main categories, male and female, in which humans and most other living things are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions. In my research, I came across this video from the SciShow explaining that there are actually more than two human sexes, meaning it could be considered a spectrum due to mutations because biology. Which means sex isn't as black and white as we all thought it was. Mind-boggling. Gender. It's a social construct that categorizes people based on cultural and social norms. Some cultures have growing spectrums of gender. Gender expression. The way in which a person expresses their gender identity, typically through their appearance, dress, pronouns, behavior, so on and so forth. Sexual orientation. Simply put, the gender or gender expression of another person that you're attracted to and would like to play Smash Bros. Or in a romantic sense, you'd like to hold hands. For example, Angel Dust from Has Been Hotel and Michael from The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. They're both assigned male at birth, AMABs. They use he/him pronouns. Their gender expressions tend to lean more feminine than masculine. And their orientation is gay because they're guys who are attracted to other guys. Simple? No? Well, it never is. Moving on. Due to the topic of this video, I seeked definitions and responses from folks of the trans community. Links to their socials in the description. Their definitions will be displayed as followed, so please feel free to pause and read them. Because this American Dad episode, LGBT Steve, gets so much wrong about sex and gender, while also being very lighthearted. Wanting to be part of a sisterhood so desperately, Haley tries to join a bumper derby team of badass, open-minded lesbians, but she's only accepted if her sister joins too, aka Steve. And you already know where this is gonna go. Steve pretends to be a girl, catches some feelings for one of the other members, and Haley fears that if the other women find out that he's actually a boy, that they both could get kicked off the team. Which doesn't make much sense later on as to why Haley just went ahead and revealed to the team that Steve is a boy, but hey, do you, sis? Whatever, go out on your own terms. That's queen shit right there. But surprisingly, the ladies don't have a problem with Steve being a boy because they tell him that he's actually a lesbian.
Sure, you're a boy on the outside, but on the inside, you're all girl.
Deducing that because Steve felt more confident and comfortable while bonding with the other women is the conclusion that the team reaches as to why Steve is actually a girl. You know, because apparently, if a boy hangs out with a bunch of women and partakes in femme or lesbian activities, that must make him a girl, right? Put a pin in that, because I have many, many words to say about it. But for now, we roll into Steve trying to figure out who he is, and Haley fearing that she's not as open-minded as she first thought. In song, which I probably can't play. This ultimately leads them to getting Roger to help. Which, you know, makes perfect sense. He may be an alien, but Roger is as gender fluid and expressive as they come, even if he gets a little too eager to cut off Steve's member as soon as he likes a dress. So after some alone time, Steve comes to terms with who he is.
I'm a boy!
Which is great because in the end, no matter who he is, Steve accepts himself wholeheartedly and came to that conclusion on his own. Okay, look. I know, as a cis person, there's only so much I can judge and say about this episode in terms of accuracy when it comes to gender discovery. But as someone who also does not want to be misgendered through her life, I do have some critiques, nonetheless, of the episode's interchangeable use of terms, as well as telling another person what their gender identity actually is. But after reading the feedback I got from a few trans folks, I see this episode in a different light. Steve thinks that having a number 2 pencil is what makes him a boy, while having a sharpener is what makes him a girl. Look, I'm already toeing the line here. Y'all know damn well what I mean. But one's reproductive organs does not always dictate nor reflect one's gender identity nor expression. I mean, if we keep saying that birthing babies is what makes a woman, then that statement is not only harmful to trans women, but cis women who adopt, can't medically house a fetus, not financially stable to have one, went through menopause, had a hysterectomy, or who just chooses not to have kids at all. So by that logic, guess I ain't a woman because I don't let my reproductive organs dictate whether or not I should wear a skirt or pants. Transphobic statements and attempts like that just ends up hurting the people these phobes claim to save or preserve the old ways of gender norms. Well, I say what lies between your thighs is not for my eyes, because I'm ace. That's for you, your sexual partner, and doctors to know. Now, gender, on the other hand, I have learned it is very, 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 very complicated if put under a singular blanket. One's gender-affirming outfit could be another's gender dysphoria trigger, which is why at the end of the day, gender and the expression of it is hella subjective and personal to oneself. I've met many a women with masculine traits. Hi, I'm one of them. Same goes to more effeminate men. It doesn't make them any more or less manly as they see themselves. I also know many a femme-thems or mask non-binaries as well. Gender truly is a performance. It's as fluid as it is complicated, so patience on all sides is greatly needed and appreciated to achieve a better understanding of each other. And you know what? I will definitely give credit where credit is due, because the writers didn't treat Steve's gender dilemma as a joke. The episode clearly showed that he wasn't sure of who he was, had a support system in that of Haley and Roger to help him through it all, and in the end, Steve comes to terms with who he is. AMAB, and uses he/him pronouns. He is as happy and confident as anyone would be coming out. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Jera's thoughts on the episode really helped broaden my views of it.
Take my opinion with a huge grain of salt, cause I'm not trans feminine. But shockingly well handled and nuanced for what it was. Steve was just taken as is as a butch trans girl, and Haley was framed, incorrectly but also not, as being an asshole for trying to misgender him. But the fact that Steve was allowed to ponder whether or not he'd be happier as a he/him trans lesbian versus dating that fellow roller derbyist as a straight man legit blew my mind when a pal of mine showed me this episode a few years back. It was him genuinely pondering his gender. The show never did the usual bullshit of treating that as a joke, and while the ending of him being, LOL, I'm actually cis, was admittedly kind of a cop-out. It's still insane to me that this show of all shows managed to do an episode on a character exploring their gender identity in such a good faith way. Wild shit, am I right?
Now I know when it comes to shows like American Dad, continuity can get a bit loosey-goosey, but throughout the series, Steve's gender expression has always fluctuated between feminine and masculine traits, albeit in the most stereotypical way. Whether he's out in the shooting range with his father, camping, hunting deer, or hanging out with his mother in the garden, shoplifting, trying on different accessories, the common stereotypes, of course. He's very much in tune with his femininity as he is with his masculinity, and that expression could, but not always, reflect one's gender identity. I'm AFAB, which means assigned female at birth, pronouns are chocolate, and I'm also in my own journey of exploring my masculinity. But that doesn't mean I wish to discard my femininity altogether. Two truths can exist, people, so long as they're your truths. And that's mine. Which leads to my greater issue with this episode. It's the fact that Iris and the team told Steve who he is without his consideration. If this episode decided to end with a trans girl Stevie, that would have not only been an impressively bold move at the time, but it would have also opened up new possibilities of storytelling. And yet, I would not have wanted that unless it was Steve, first and foremost, who came to that conclusion that he's a girl. Because it's one thing to be supportive, and another to just tell someone else what their gender is, or what it should be based on their mannerisms and activities they enjoy. That did not sit right with me at all, but I'm glad that the writers, even though it's clear that there weren't any trans people in the room at the time, tackled this complicated subject with far more respect than most would. And in 2015 too, which means that the episode probably was written and produced around 2012 at the soonest. Bravo, well done. Snaps all around. As they would say, slay queen, slay. And since this episode originally aired on my birthday, I'm claiming it. It's no longer for the gays, it's for our Tay.